this video that I've been trying to do this period will also be uploaded at the end of the day. So if you're missed, okay, you're absent, you should be able to go to the agenda here on the home page and click on the day, and it should take you to what we did. Okay, so you can keep up if you, I know how it is if you're absent and you're trying to catch up with all your classes. So this is a way if you're, if you feel up to it, or if you missed because of dentist or something, you're not really sick, that you've got energy to take care of keeping up. Okay? So this is something for you to hopefully help you keep up with class if you're missing that. Okay? So just a little warm up here. On Friday, we talked about function notation, where we started seeing f of x and that kind of stuff. Okay, so number one is an equation in function notation. We're used to seeing y equals 9 minus 6x. Instead, we're saying f of x equals 9 minus 6x. So we had to find f of 0, f of 1/2, and f of -2. So when we do f of 0, we're finding the value of f at 0. So that just means you're putting 0 in place of the x. So what's that answer? Anybody? When it's 0, it's 9, right? When we have f of 1/2, what do we end up getting? 6. Very good. And f of -2? 21, right? So all we're doing is substituting the number in for the x and then figuring it out, right? So we're doing the same thing here when it's in graph form. Here's a picture of a function. It passes the vertical line test, right? So we're finding f of 0. So when x is 0, what's f of x or y? What number is that? 4. When f is 1/2, we come here and go find the graph. That is 6. And f of -2, when we're at -2, f of x or the y is 0. So you should be able to do both of those. Okay? Look at a graph and find them, or look at the equation and find them. Yes, Pam. Anybody? Question?
Yes.
Chelsea, that makes sense? Joey?
How do you do -2 one for the first one?
Okay, so you're going to put -2 here.
Don't you just do like -6 times -3?
-2,
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's probably why I did it wrong.
Which is positive 12, right? So it'd be 9 plus 12. Right. So when you had a problem like this, says a painter charges $200 plus $25 per can of paint used. It says write a function to represent the total charge for a certain number of cans of paint. All right? So we could do P of C, the function P, and we're just going to go 200, just like it says, plus 25C, right? Does that make sense? You had a couple problems like that on your homework, right? The last two, I think. Mm-hmm. And then it says, what's the value of the function for an input of 4? Okay, so what's the value if I put a 4 there? $300, right? And what does that represent? How much you have to pay the painter for painting whatever he was painting for you, right? Hannah?
Can you still put f of x?
Yeah, you can use whatever variables you want. I was just using P for paint, C for cans. They use T for total. So again, it doesn't matter what letters you use. Okay? So a quick little review of what you did for homework and what we went over on Friday, right? Okay. I'll just go over homework answers for you. And, we'll go over any of these that you may have a question. But all we got today then, after we get through this, is you can have the rest of the period to work on your practice test, okay? And we'll go over it tomorrow, then the test will be Wednesday, okay? So, number, where did we start? 2, 10, 12, sorry. 2 plus 10, right? Number 12 was -4, 13 halves, which is 6.5, and -11. Number 13 is 0, -3/4, which is -0.75, and -2. Number 14 is 1, -7 halves, which is -3.5, and -1. Any of those? Anybody have a question on that?
I don't have a question. I have like 10 questions.
Okay, number 15, that's like the second one on the warm-up, looking at a graph and figuring out the answers. 15 is 2, 5, and 0. 16 is 4, 4, and -1. And 17 is 0, 3, 1/2. Yes, Donna?
Can you go over all the graph ones?
Sure. Okay, so for number 15, it goes through -1 and at the x and +2 at the y. So let's see, probably not like that. So that's what it looks like. Okay, and we had to find f of 0. So when x is 0, we're looking for where it touches, where the graph crosses above 0 or below, wherever. So the answer would be 2, right? So this is what we're looking at for answer. And then when f is 3 halves, which is 1.5, it looks like that's a 3. Okay, have a go.
Right, just, do you write it in coordinate form or do you?
No, you don't have to write quarter form. I'm just showing you.
Okay.
You're given the x, you're figuring out the y is basically what you're doing.
Will be comfortable to write it.
No. Well, no. And then, what was the third one? -1. So a -1 for x, we're at 0 for y. Does that help on them?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to see the other ones too? I can. But if this helps with those, and I don't have to, I won't, but I mean, I can if you want.
No, it's okay.
You sure?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I was just confused.
All right, number 18. We're supposed to graph that. Okay? So the top, when they give it to you horizontally, a table like that, the top one will be your x and the bottom one will be your y. Okay? So I'm going to go and mark like that's 25 and that's 50 and that's 75, 100, and then 125. It goes up to 150, doesn't it?
Yes.
And these are thousands of dollars, right? So 25,000, 50,000, 75, and so on. And then I'm going to go by fives here. So that's 10%, 20%, 30%. That's 1% tax, right? So it's basically just this first quadrant we're looking at for this graph. And then you just plot in those points. So 15, or 25,015, so you go here and here, just put a point. And then 50,000 was 25. And then go from there. Just plot the points. Does that make sense for 18? Okay, 19 and 20 a little trickier. So let's go over those two. Do this first, move this over a little bit. So 19 was the f of x is the square root of x. And then it says this with it, doesn't it? If I remember right? Yeah. So what's this telling you? X is greater than equals 0. What is that? What do we call it? We have a name for it. Starts with a D. D. Well, no, that is the word. Domain, right? What's the y's? The range, right? So the f of x part, or the y's, is the range, and the x's are the domain. So they just want us using numbers there from 0 and up. Okay, so you won't be trying to figure out any negatives right now. Does that make sense? Okay, so when you have to graph, look at all the information. Okay, so they're giving us some extra information. They're just saying we're putting any number from 0 and up in for x. Okay, so again, when we graph, the best way or easiest way is make an XY table, or it could be f of x table. Right? Those are the same thing. Now, what are easy numbers to use if I'm doing square root?
4.
Yeah, 4 would be an easy one. What else?
2.
No. 9, 1, 0, 16, yeah. Those type of numbers, which are what again? Perfect squares. So make it easy on yourself. Remember, x can be anything. Last week we talked about x is the independent variable, right? Meaning it can be anything. And then we said y, or the f of x, was the dependent variable, meaning it depended on the x, right? We got to know what x is before we can figure out the other, right? So you don't always have to use those -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2 numbers like you're used to using. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So make it easy on you. Okay? So use perfect squares. What's the square root of 0? 1, 4, 9, 16. Okay, you guys know all those answers, right? So that just makes it easier for you guys. Now you got, we'll just use the first 4. We got four points that we can plot, right? 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, 9, 3. So it kind of curves like that. Okay, so I saw a lot of submissions. 19 and 20 had some question marks. So I wanted to go over those, which is okay. You guys kept going and tried to finish, which is good. Sometimes you're not going to get everyone, but at least try them all. You get that 5 real easy. As long as you get it submitted on time, right? Okay, we good with this one? Okay, let's look at 20. Okay, so 20 was f of x is 1/2 x plus 1. Then it says this, I believe, which is -6, right? So now our domain is all numbers between -6 and 6. Okay? So when I do my table, since it's 1/2 x, what numbers should I plug in? Even numbers, right? Does that make sense? So it's easy to take half of an even number. Okay? So when you're picking, if you have to graph, we can always do an XY table to graph. Anything, any equation you're given, you should be able to do. Just making an XY table. But when you pick X values, pick values that are easy for you to use. Does that make sense? Okay. So, -6, half of that is -3, plus 1 would be -2. Half of -4 is -2, plus 1 is -1. Half of -2 is -1, plus 1. Half of 0 is 0, plus 1. Half of 2 is 1, plus 1. Half of 4 is 2, plus 1. And half of 6 is 3, plus 1. Okay? Now, look at the domain. What is special about this one, -6 and +6? Looking at the domain. These symbols, what are they telling you? Don't include the -6 and 6, right? So what do I do when I plot that point on the graph? Circle, open. Does that make sense? Okay, so details we're starting to have to look at a little bit. That's an important detail, right? So you got to pay attention to the details. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. That's a circle. At 6, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are both circles, not dots. Okay? And then the rest are dots. -4, 1, -2. Oops. -4, -1. Sorry. -2, 0. Let's get rid of that. 1, 0. -2, 0, 1, 2, 2, and 4, 3. And those line up nice for you, don't they? Okay, so we would connect those. And that would be the graph of number 20 then. So 19 and 20, we gave you domains and little details that are important to the graph. Remember, a graph is a picture of all the solutions to a problem. So all these points on that line work in this function, in that equation. Okay? Up to, but not including the -6 and +6. All right? Does that help going over those?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. The last two, I think you guys did pretty well on. 21 was 160 plus 4m, and the answer was 192. That's how much it would cost you if you were driving 8 miles per hour over the speed limit. And for 22, it's 14.7 plus 0.445 d, or whatever variable you use, which is 36.95 psi, which means that's how much pressure per square inch on your body if you were 50 feet under water. So almost 37 pounds per little square inch on you. So it feel kind of heavy, right, if you're 50 feet underwater. Okay? Any other questions? Does that help going over those? I knew my second period class had some questions on some of that. But after we went over it, they said, seem to understand pretty well. We good? Look good, feel good? You are good, right? So, we are as far as we're going for chapter 1. So, your assignment is a practice test. I actually ran them off for you, but if you don't want a copy of it, you can just look at it on your computer if you want. Laptop. You okay now? Sleeping on it?
Yeah. Let's go. It's time to
No offense to Algebra, but I'm in on the
Most people
Love
We got one. Here it comes back. You already got one of your own? I mean, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. You're welcome.
Yes, on the ground.
I guess, Father. You're a troublemaker, aren't you?
What?
You're a troublemaker, aren't you?
Yeah.
What I thought.
I don't do anything wrong.
Mr. Ryland, remember to meet the father? Dad, I just want it signed up.
I was trying to. Oh,